Boom. Hello. Welcome. The egg of life. Today it's more life than shame, although shame is contained within life. Shame is one of the most difficult emotions. Shame is very close to embarrassment for me personally. Shame is a shrinking shyness, but I feel like shame is also the true self. Uh, um, that shame is when the true self gets denied and repressed. But when you are just your true self, you feel no shame anymore, or it's very fleeting when you feel it because it's just like you're no longer ashamed of yourself. If that makes sense, you just are yourself. So there's no distance between you and yourself. There's nothing. It's like you just intuitively respond to life, maybe with embarrassment when something goes wrong or you do something silly or you get found to be lacking in some way. Natural shame rather than long standing repressed shame where you feel like you're a failure or you're a bad person or that your inner self is wrong or your inner self is um, invalid, that you're not right, that there's something untrue about who you are or something fake about who you are. That's shame. And you feel like you're a small, shameful being. Um, I'm not trying to shame you if you feel shame. What I'm trying to say is that's not the end point. You know, that shame is something to go through and to feel and to recognize it's just another emotion, it's just another part of life, rather than get stuck in shame. Shame spiral, guilt spirals as well, where everything is bigger than you and you're the victim, you're the bad one, and you're wrong and you're awful and you're so shameful and you're so small and you're the problem in everyone else's life. You're the problem in the world, it's your fault. Shame. So ashamed. Shame. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm small. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person. I am wrong. I am bad. And other things around that feeling. I'm ugly. I'm a failure. I'm a useless person. I'm worthless. Shame about ability. I can't do it. I'm not big enough. I can't handle it. Shame about capability. So, yeah. I'm not cut out for this. And then the shame of social, like social mistakes. I fucked it up. See, my personal opinion or my personal feeling is that natural shame doesn't last very long. You deal with it quite quickly, like all other emotions. It comes in or it comes up inside you, and you're like, ah. Or like, ah. I'm logging this out on purpose just to see if there's any more to it. But yeah, I mean, it would be like, imagine the stance of shame, the kind of shy child who's done something wrong, or like all kind of hunched inwards. Shame, sadness, uh, get all rolled into one, don't they? But it's when you make a complex out of that and you take it further than just the emotional, the intuitive experience of shame, and you create a constellation of ideas about the self. It's a shameful self, that you're wrong, and that you're different from other people and you're worse than other people, and it's shameful to be true and it's shameful to be who you are. There's something you need to work through to be okay with. being truthful and being who you are. And feelings are okay. Feelings are okay to have, and feelings are okay to express. They might not always be okay to express to every single person, because you may still have difficulties when you express certain emotions to other people. But even at a certain point, if you can deal with how other people respond to your emotion, if you can deal with how they respond, so you share your emotion and they reject it, they don't like it. But if you can deal with their rejecting you, then it doesn't stop you from sharing your emotion, if you see what I mean. So it makes you somewhat immune to the opinions of other people, that you are still sovereign, you still stand as yourself, you still stand as truth. Whatever emotion is going on, whatever experience you're having. So, welcome to Fieros Reborn, the egg of shame, the egg of life, the egg of truth, the egg of presence, and the blue thing of blueness. What are you? What are you, dear friend? You, with your blueness, you have power inside. Fine, fair enough. So let's carry on. I'm going to talk about stories. I've just finished again. There's the camera. Sorry, I just forgot where the camera was. Oh God. Just finished this again. So this is something I could feel shame about. Let's have a bit of shame about this. So I finished this book millions of times. The Psych Ward book series. Millions of times. And I could feel shame that I said to people, yeah, it's done. And then I started it again. And I got rid of a load of stuff and said, yeah, it's done. And it could be like, yeah, I was silly to think it was done, and I'm bad and I got it wrong. And I'm a terrible author because I misjudged things and I did it wrong. I shouldn't be writing. I think that's that one finished. Emotions. They have their own life, don't they? They have their little energy force. And then they finish. This is the thing. This is one of the things about emotions that we tend to get tripped up on, which is that... I'm just opening. It's really hot. So hot. Emotions. One of the problems that we have with emotions that we tend to have is that they tend to take us over. They tend to assume control of our being and take over our identity as well. Like, we get hooked into the emotional aspect of that's going on in the body, right? And it becomes more than just I'm having an emotion. It's like my life is ending, and oh God, everything's going wrong, and or if it's an inward thing, oh, I'm so bad and my life is fucked. Or it's just utter despair. I can't handle the world. Life is terrible. Life is just no point in existence. And I've been there. I'm not saying this from some position of I know better than you. It's like, no, I know that feeling big time. But the way to get out of that is to be the observer of these things, which means to be the feeler as well. It's not just observer like some abstract, lofty place where you observe everything. It's an inner sensing. So it's not like when you say be the witness to it, be mindful of it, meditate with it or whatever. It's really much more intimate than that sounds. That can sound kind of abstract and lofty, and like you take yourself far away from all your experiences and detachment sometimes sounds like that you don't feel anything anymore, and that you're detached and you're aloof and you're removed from everything. There is that component, but the point is that it's not you who is detached. You are infused in everything and you are in touch with everything, but it's your ego that detaches from feelings, and you detach from your ego. So you become more of a present being. You feel yourself to just be a sense of presence, knowingness, beingness, being here. And that's who you really are. So you step into that, which means detaching from the small identity, the voice in the head that thinks it knows everything, the voice in the head that thinks it's in control, the voice in the head that is reacting and coming from the feelings without realizing that it's just giving voice to these feelings that are there. So you as a being are the force or the sense, the knowingness that holds all these emotional experiences, that allows them to be there. And so when we say detach, we mean like it is a stepping back, it's a pulling back to a deeper place. That is the true place anyway. That is the real place that the rest of your body is living from. Like your body is pretty much in touch with your sense of being, because your body is not thinking about things, your body is just getting on with it. And your body is surrendered, your body just kind of obeys its life rhythms and its life force, and its movements. And then there's you as an ego that thinks it knows what it's doing, what it wants, and how things are going to turn out, and what's right and what's wrong, and what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening, and what has happened and what will happen, and all these kind of stories and stuff. And when we say detached, you pull back to be more in touch with this larger sense of self that encompasses the whole body, that encompasses the mind and the ego as well, that encompasses feeling in touch with and knowing all of life as you encounter it. You're just constantly in touch with life. So yeah, detachment can sound like you're no longer in touch with anything, that you've taken yourself away from life, and that you're no longer kind of feeling anything. But no, what detachment means is that you no longer derive an identity from the things that happen, from the voice in the head, from your feelings, because you know yourself as your identity already. You know that your identity is it's a stable thing. It's always there, and that's the part of you that doesn't change. The part of you that doesn't change is the part that registers all the feelings, registers the hearing of the voice in the head. You know, your thinking mind registers the outside world, registers the sensations in the body, and the part of you that is aware of what you're thinking, like that you're the part, you as the being, the deeper being, the larger being, is the one who is voting on whether you are going to do this or not. That's your true nature. Whether you are going to follow this train of thought or not, whether you are going to follow this plan or not, whether you are going to sit up, lie down, that's you as the larger being. That the ego voice in the head doesn't really have any control over. It has little bits of control over it, like you can have an idea and think about something. Whether you're going to do it or not is down to you as a larger, deeper being. So I quite often have a thought to do something, and then there's a part of me, the deeper part of me, like being aspect of me, that's just saying, nope, it's not going to happen. But it's not even that, it's just it won't budge. And then the little voice in the head saying something like, come on, get up, man, it's time to get up, right, let's get up now. And my body is just lying there going, It's not even saying, like, I don't hear that, it's just not budging. So there's a deeper force that runs through the body, the being. And that is, you get in touch with that. So all emotional experiences, you no longer seek, or you no longer derive an identity from them. So they no longer feel like my emotions. Not so strongly my emotions. It's like, yeah, my emotions, but with the undertone that they are part of me, they are not the full me. Because what we tend to do when it comes to emotions and sadness and anger, rage, or feeling betrayed, feeling loss, is we tend to hook right into the emotion, and we tend to make a big old story about what it means about me, and how it's all happening to me. There's a self that's getting trapped and embroiled in all the activity of the body and the mind. And so you turn that into a self identity, a self thought, a self concept. But when you appreciate life from the sense of beingness, it's like feelings come and go, and we don't realize that when we're trapped in the head thinking our way through life, because the thinking mind tends to assume that all feelings are static, fixed, permanent objects, that when they're there, they're like the worst thing ever, or the biggest thing ever, or the most stressful thing ever, or the most difficult thing ever, or the saddest thing ever. You know, that they tend to come with all emotions, as the thinking mind tends to think, all emotions tend to have a feeling that they're static and fixed and they'll last forever. But the truth is, it's obvious that someone gets angry, and anger can't last forever. So eventually the emotion changes, it subsides, it goes to something else, it changes to sadness, or it goes to neutrality, or it goes to numbness, or it goes to grief, or it goes to joy even, I don't know. Try going from hard work. Or shame. You know, shame, it cannot physically last forever. The, and if it seems to be continuous and ongoing, the shame, even within that feeling of shame, you're going to have peaks and troughs of a feeling. So some people do experience certain feelings for long periods of time that feels fairly continuous. But if you look closely into any feeling, you will notice it, oh, it's really strong, and then it's less, then it's even more strong than it was to begin with, and then it's less, and then it's a lot less than it was. And so feelings go up and down on a spectrum, and then they change into something else. So the mistake, a couple of mistakes really to make with regard to your feelings sense, is one, to believe that your identity, your sense of self, comes from your feeling, that that your feelings are attacking you, or your feelings mean something about you. Whereas to appreciate them from being is that your feelings are occurring within you. They're important to you. You are feeling them. Like, I'm sensing my feelings. I'm experiencing this really big feeling right now. Rather than, oh God, I'm so stressed and being taken over by my worries. There's a difference. And the other mistake is to assume, without observation, to just assume, kind of by accident really, just because it's the way our habits run, thinking habits, to assume that all feelings are static, fixed, continuous and permanent. Which it seems to be that within a feeling in the body, there seems to have almost built into the feeling that it is permanent, that it will always be there. The feelings seem to generate that sense of permanency somehow. But when you observe them and sense them, feel your feelings really, like you really shine the light of your mind onto your feelings, and you really kind of step into your body, like to really feel that and get in touch with that. Every feeling is impermanent, changing, fluxing, moving, evolving, if you like. I was angry 2 days ago. I'm not angry now. You know, I was sad earlier on today when I was writing this book. I'm not sad now. Feelings move and change and grow and evolve. So, and that applies to shame as well. If someone had told me this when I was depressed and I was available to listen, like if I had my ears open, then that would have been really helpful. Like to say, it's okay to feel your feelings. You don't have to avoid this feeling. That, in fact, the fact that you're aware of this feeling means that surely you're bigger than that feeling. Because how can you be aware of something that is bigger than you? You know, does that make sense? Like you must be, in order to be aware of it, there must be some difference between you and the feeling. So there must be some other. You must be able to. You're approaching the feeling. You're sensing the feeling somehow. You know. So there's you and there's the feeling, rather than one and the same thing. Okay, fine. Explained. I feel that's explained now. Yeah. So let's talk about America. And let's sweat it all out. Oh, okay. So I figure I don't have to do this in a chronological order, because the stuff in America that happened is like, even if I mean, I may be able to get it in chronological order eventually, but so many things happened, and there was a sense of atemporalness, as in like, it doesn't seem very chronological in how I experienced it, because I wasn't like really checking my watch and stuff, and I wasn't paying attention to the date. You know, you can get a good sense of chronology when you write the date every day and when you write the time every day, for example. Like if you have to note the date down, if you're working on something in particular, you have to write the date in a book or whatever for some reason, whether it's to do with noting of finances, or if it's, you know, letter heading or emailing, whatever it is, and keeping track of the date and stuff like this, and schedules and time periods. As I said in the last video, I don't really have much of a structure in my life. I decide the structure according to long-term goals that are based on how I feel and what I'm trying to do within my growth and spirituality journey, my creativity journey, or just my personal journey in life. But at this point in time, and it may change as well, as I was saying earlier on, everything, feelings, plans as well, always changeable, goals, plans, feelings, life, always moving, changing, growing. It may be that I do start needing to structure things as, what do you call it, plans and events and stuff come in, and that could be the next part. I feel like that might be the next part of my journey, is to, because I'm starting to expand out into bringing what I've done with regard to my creative works, my artworks, my music, my writings, my videos even, that it probably will be necessary to have a diary and a schedule and a plan when I'm going to meet with people and do talks and share things, or I'm going to promote this at this time, or I've got this gig at this time on this day. So the diary might start filling up again. And my diary, like schedule diary, planner diary, whatever, not my journal, I mean, you know, schedule diary planner thing, has had kind of like people's birthdays in, a barbecue here and there. People's birthdays mainly, Christmas, but that's already in there anyway because everyone knows it's Christmas. When people are away in my family, because every day has just been like, I plan it as I go, I make it up as I go along, I plan it in my head for the day, and then I follow that plan, pretty much. And then I make up other things as I go along as well. For example, today was, right, I'm going to finish this book. Finish the book. And then I was like, right, I'm going to go home then. Right, I'm going to type it up now. Right, I've got knackered from typing it up. I'll have an argument with my mum. That was alright actually, it's a pretty good one. Pretty good actually as arguments go. The feistiness didn't last very long, and we just ended up having a long chat instead, more of a heart-to-heart kind of thing. As much as my mum can do heart-to-hearts, you know, she's not the most heart-to-hearty of people, but she did well. She did well. Yeah. I read her some of the book actually, that's quite good. Yeah, but America, as I was saying, like, I wasn't writing the date down, so I don't know when things were happening. I don't really know when I went there. It was 2007. Yeah, it was 2007. I've written it down elsewhere that it was September to December. It was 3 months because I had the 90-day visa, right? Not a working one, just a visiting visa, 90 days. And what else? Oh, so let's just talk random about random stuff that happened. That's kind of interesting. It doesn't have to be in any order, yeah. So yeah, so some weird stuff. Okay, lots of weird stuff. So there was this one bloke who I was in the Greyhound bus terminal. I'm not exactly sure why I was there on that occasion. I mean, I went 2 trips down to Louisiana, Baton Rouge. Okay, maybe we can do a bit of chronology. So I was in Jazz on Lennox, staying in the hostel, yeah. And for some reason, I'd got it into my head that I wanted to go to Seattle. I was like, right, grunge, you know. I used to love Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. I was obsessed with the guy, and it used to annoy me that he'd killed himself. Not annoy me, it used to trouble me. I'd linked into that as some kind of identity, and I thought I was like him, and I was going to be a rock star. And I didn't want to be a rock star, because if I was a rock star, pardon me, then I'd end up killing myself like Kurt Cobain. So I'd already developed this kind of massive ego about myself. to feel as though I already was famous, and to feel as though that I was already on the path to self-destruction just because I thought so much of myself, basically, and I thought I was this kind of genius at the age of 16, and that continued on for ages, for thinking that way. And I had to, oh God, I went through so much to deal with that one little bit of identity complex, this feeling that I was afraid of success because I was like Kurt Cobain. I was equal to his genius, which I may well be. We're not sure though. We never know. I was equal to his genius, and therefore, if I got successful, if I got famous, that I would absolutely, positively go down the route of drugs and suicide and alcoholism, probably as well, and I'd kill myself. And that was like the only way that it would happen. So I was terrified of becoming famous, yet I also wanted to become famous because of the seduction, if you like, of the ego gratification of being famous. So ego gratification in fame is like, I'm the biggest thing ever. Everybody loves me. Everybody knows me. Therefore, I'm important in the world. I must exist as an important person in the world, which is all about how you look to other people. So it's you're taking an image of yourself from how other people are responding to you, and you're feeding that back and going, yes, I exist as a solid, stable entity. Look at what all these people say about me. They say I'm great, or they say I'm terrible. And then you have the negative grandiosity, the wretchedness of grandiosity of the ego, which is the, oh, no one loves me anymore. Everyone hates me. I'm a failure. I'm the worst thing ever. I'm not a genius. I'm the worst, most terrible artist, or I'm a failure and I've got no integrity. Whatever it is. Same point again is all the same point, which is to not take your identity from an image of yourself, or from a feeling of yourself, or from an idea of yourself, or from a thinking train of yourself, but to step even further back than that in your knowing of yourself, to encompass all those things, but not to take any one single item of consciousness to be the whole of you. Yeah, that was wicked. I should just quit right now. Yeah, just sit down. I'm not going to though, because I want to tell you stories. Damn it. Yeah, but so what am I on about? Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I was terrified of becoming successful. Terrified of and it was all in the mind as well. It had nothing really to do with anything in the real world. It was all a thought complex. It was a thought problem. It was something that would bug me and bring me suffering anytime I thought of it, and I would literally sort of terrorize myself about becoming successful. So I would imagine that I was already kind of giving interviews as a successful rock musician, and I created this whole history story so that it would come. There was always a little part of me that was telling the success story from the point of already being successful, which may still happen, I don't know, but I was linked into that it was a way that I was feeding myself this sense of grandiose mix of success and failure. So in the imagined scenario, I was successful, and I was looking back on all the things I had done and telling my success story of how I got to be so successful, right? So every little thing I did along the way during that time period where I was entertaining that kind of grandiosity feeling, everything I did along the way was adding to that story of that success story kind of thing. And maybe you're doing that as well. Some people do that, that they're always telling themselves the success story, that their life is a success story. And they're like constantly bigging themselves up to themselves, if that makes sense. And I was doing that, where I was telling myself a success story as though it had already happened when it hadn't happened. And like sort of preparing, I felt like maybe I was preparing my speeches for the future, or like receiving my Oscar or something stupid like that. Was it even Oscars? I don't know what it would be. MTV Music Award. I just want to thank myself and my deeper God, which is myself. And I just want to thank how amazing I am. I'm so appreciative of my own amazing, awesome self. I'm so glad that I was here, that I am here, and I won. I'm just so appreciative that I won. Because I know in my heart that I am the best. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I was telling myself this, not that story, but it was more along the lines of, what was I saying? I had this whole story that I'd add to every now and again whenever something I felt was really amazing happened, or something really bad happened, and then I overcame it, and I'd tell this story about it to be to get this image of myself. And it was an image of a person who went from rags to riches, that kind of thing. So the success story all focused around overcoming failure or triumphing over adversity. And it became this little successful identity that didn't really have much of a reality in terms of anything, you know. And the point is that actually all of our stories don't really have much of a reality in terms of anything. Even your most accurate mental story, you know, the most accurate verbal story that you tell about anything, can't quite fully match the reality in the objective external world. I mean, how are you going to describe any object in words or in thoughts? It's very, very difficult. Because, yeah, or you say, oh, well, the door is a metre wide and 2.5 metres tall, which is probably wrong to begin with. It's coloured like this, it's got these patterns on it. I mean, and then you have to go into the molecular structure of the whole thing, and its situation within the room, and my feelings about just don't even bother trying to tell the whole story of anything, because it's not gonna match reality, mates. Yeah, so I had this Kurt Cobain feeling. I'm not sure how that links into America, particularly, actually. Oh well. I can't remember how I started that. Suffice it to say, I got over that issue. I think I did anyway. I feel I don't really identify myself as being on a path to suicide anymore. If I do become famous, will it be good or not? We don't know, you know. I probably just feel like that I'm the same person going through a different set of annoying challenges rather than the set of annoying challenges that I go through on a day-to-day basis. They're just different annoying challenges. I left that in the microwave. It got cold. It's a challenge. Okay, right. So there was this one bloke. I was in the Greyhound bus station because I was going to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is near New Orleans, which is down south. Yeah. And so this one bloke in the bus station was really weird, and there's not much of a story about it actually, but I just remember it. He would say some stuff, and he'd go like, "I'm going now," and then he'd sort of turn, and he'd carry on looking at me, and it was almost like he was fixed to the spot. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going now," and he'd look at me, and he'd carry on saying some stuff, blah 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 blah. And I was just I think I was just sort of stood there like listening to him. I tended to do that a lot when I was in America. I still tend to do it a lot now. Just listen to people. So I stood there listening to this guy, and because I felt that I was giving him a healing service, which I was. Don't know if it worked or helped him in the long run, but being there for other people is a healing service in its own way. Just to be listening to people. So I was being there for this guy, who was just a random stranger, by the way, who may have asked me for some change or something, I can't remember. Or I might have asked him for directions, can't remember exactly. But he was there. And then we kept on chatting, saying some stuff. And it was all slightly weird. And I think he had some tics as well. Like, I felt like maybe he was suffering from some mental health problem, or his body was sort of twisted as well. So I thought that he was maybe suffering from something, because the words that he was saying didn't necessarily make sense much of the time. But I still listened. I was in the zone to entertain all sorts of nonsense merchants in those days, and just let it go, as in let it come here. Yes, carry on, say what you like, and then just at the end of that conversation, forget about it, or not forget about it in this case. But something struck me about this person that was really strange, in that he kept saying, "Yeah, I'm going to go now," and then he'd sort of go back and forth as though he was stuck in some kind of weird time warp. It was really weird. And then he'd carry on saying some more stuff. Blah, 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 blah. And then he'd go, "Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, so I'm going to go now." And he'd do this. And start saying a whole load of stuff. And this went on like over and over again. He must have done it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Literally. In the same conversation, which may have lasted up to 10 minutes. I don't know exactly how long. Time wasn't really a thing for me, as I said earlier. Yeah, and it's just so strange how he would be there, say he was leaving, and then not leave, and then continue, and then say he was leaving, and then not leave, and eventually I think I just got bored of it, and I just went, "Fuck this, I'm done." You're just going to stand there repeating the same thing over and over again for fucking ages. So I thought, nuts to this, and I left. I think I got the information I wanted anyway, which is probably like, where do I have to go? Yeah, so that was that one, that guy. I don't know why that stuck in my mind. It's stuck in my mind because it's really strange. That's why. Yeah, and it was like, it was in a time warp, and I interpreted that as meaning something. Like, why was he doing that? Why would he? I probably think that it was because I felt like I was keeping his attention. So although he was saying he was going to leave, I was still giving him attention. So he probably didn't want to leave from that attention warp time bubble thing. I don't know if you've ever had that, where someone says, and this can happen with people who are in like normal conversation with you, where they will make like they're going to get up and leave, and then they'll carry on talking, and then they'll do it again, and they will make to get up and leave, like because maybe they've hit something slightly uncomfortable, but then they stay longer because it's actually okay to stay longer, or when people say they're going to do something and they don't do it because it's not actually coming from their true self to do it. So they think they're going to do it, they say they're going to do it, and then they don't end up doing it because it's not actually authentic, that they don't really mean that they're going to do it. And even if they think that they are going to do this thing, because it doesn't resonate with the deeper part of them, or there's a conflict with the deeper part of them that says, no, that's not actually true, I don't actually going to do that, I'm kind of kidding myself, or I'm lying a little bit here to myself and to the other person that I am going to do this. I don't really think I am going to do it. I'm just trying to appear like I'm going to do it. I feel like I should do it, but actually I have no real genuine intention to do this thing. But you say it anyway because it's like a habitual habit of trying to please people. I just realised there's this weird thing with my tongue just then. Yeah, so that's another thing that I kind of learned, I suppose. You pick up little things here and there from the little interactions you have. So it's the thing where someone says they're going to do something and they don't do it. because it's not actually the truthful thing to do. There's such a big difference between the intuitive way of acting, which is where you don't really have a plan. You might have a plan, but the way you fulfill that plan is more spontaneous. So it'd be like, just think of it in terms of how a spiritual teacher might run their thing. Their plan might be, right, I'm going to go to the place and talk for like half an hour, or 2 hours, or 1 hour, or 4 hours, or however long the talk is scheduled for. But within that, their approach is, and you can see it happening if you type into any spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, Adyashanti, Muji, pardon me, I can't remember any other fucking names off the top of my head. Rupert Spira. Look at their stuff online, and their general approach is, I am here, and I may talk. We've got some plan in terms of, I'm going to talk for a while, then we're going to take questions, and I'm going to respond to them, and it's going to finish at this time. But within that, it's just very spontaneous. It's just a flow. So there's the intuitive way of being within the plan as well. So you get a bit of both, the plan and the being, the spontaneousness. Yeah, so there's a big difference between acting spontaneously and intuitively and just as you feel and as you are, just expressing continuously spontaneously, and planning how you're going to speak to someone, what you're going to say. I prefer to sit back into the self, sit back in the seat of myself and go, hey, let's see what happens, and face every challenge that comes along to the best of my ability as I can in that moment as it arises. All right, so that's the guy. I'm gonna go now. And I'm basically just listening to him. I'm not really saying anything. I tended to just kind of listen, maybe nod or say, listening kind of thing. Not asking any further questions, just listening. Just, okay, I'm just here, just going to absorb this experience, that kind of way of being. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go now. He's kind of angling his feet like this. And then just carry on talking. So, yeah, that was him. And the reason I was there was because I was going to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, near New Orleans. Come on, we're going to get there. Because, yes, I remember how I got onto this topic now. Because Seattle, I thought, yeah, I'm delusional about my rock starness. I'm going to go back to my rock star roots in Seattle and get the feeling of the grunge vibe. I had even concocted this stupid plan, which never got off the ground, where I was going to hitchhike my way to Seattle and jump on the back of trains. That whole kind of like thing you see in some movie or other. And I thought I was going to kind of sit in the back on some hay in a train in the 1800s or 1890s, 1900s, I don't know. A train with hay in it. Yeah. And I thought that I was going to do that. I genuinely thought that for about a day and a half. And I think I got dissuaded from hitchhiking just because I think some people were saying, man. No, one guy, his name was Will. Cool guy. Ponytail. That wasn't why he was cool necessarily, but he was a cool guy. Always drank a beer in the afternoon. Anyway. He wasn't a hostel, to be fair, so, you know, he was looking for work. He'd come to New York, and he came every year saying that he was going to find a bar job in New York, and he was originally from New Orleans. Quite a tall guy, curly hair, ponytail. I guess he was like 35 at that time, so he must be 45 or something now. Yeah, so he was a bar guy. That was his thing. He was a bartender. I later found out that he also had an ex-wife who was like rinsing him clean for child benefit payments, and that had tried to get him arrested and stuff because, according to him, she was a bit of a psycho, and she was just like a stalker, kind of psycho stalker bitch. According to him. I'm just repeating words that other people have said. Okay. Ugh, shoot the messenger or what? So he'd come up to New York to try and find a bar job in New York, and he'd done that apparently for at least last year, maybe a few years before as well. He kept coming up to try and do this, and every time he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get a bar job, so he had to go back to his old job in New Orleans. So it just ended out being like a couple of weeks holiday in New York, which maybe that was the real intention behind it. I never really saw him doing much job hunting, to be fair. So maybe he went to the bars rather than looked for jobs in bars, if that makes sense. Just went out and got wasted in bars. I don't know. But yeah, so that was interesting. Maybe this is the same kind of topic of how people will say they're going to do something, but they don't really have an intention, or it's not actually the right thing for them to do that. I've quite often had that, where I can't figure out why I'm not doing something, or I can't figure out why I'm not telling someone something. And I learned this ages ago from this success program. It was a 6 CD set called Effortless Success by Michael Neal. If you're interested, have a look. It's pretty good. And the whole thing in this particular audio program is it doesn't take the normal approach of all being about setting goals and being strategic and pumping yourself up and motivating yourself just all the kind of traditional success motivational approaches that we tend to have. This was taking it from more of a kind of relaxed approach to life, that start with the inside, get happy, get yourself feeling fulfilled naturally, like do the things that you enjoy doing, that you want to do, that you like, that fill you up, and then as a result of that you start moving towards the bigger things that you wish for in your life, because you're already doing what you want to do on a basic small level, and all your decisions start to gravitate towards what makes you happy, basically. So if your internal compass is set to navigate, instead of towards north, towards my personal happiness or my feeling of fulfillment or my whatever it is that is the highest value for you, like if it's spiritual fulfillment or serving God or being a good Christian or being a good person or just personal happiness, or humanitarian, solving humanitarian problems or donating your life to a charity, or whatever it is that really is the calling of your life that will make you happy, because serving God will make you happy if that's your highest value. Spiritual enlightenment will make you happy if that's your calling. Creative, like for me personally, is more of a creative fulfillment. That my journey is my calling, if you like, is a calling of a mix of teaching, creative fulfillment, relationship fulfillment, financial fulfillment, and spiritual connection to a higher wisdom, a higher or deeper peace, a richness of life. That's what caused me to get out of bed in the morning, to make contact with something bigger than myself, and to create something that becomes bigger than myself. To enjoy a relationship with another person that I can't feel that sense of joy and connection just by myself. Yeah, so this program advises you basically to take it as an internal journey, success. And how does this link to anything that I was saying before? Success, program. Where did I learn this? Can't remember what I was on about. Let's go back to talk about Will. Maybe it'll fit in. So Will had difficulties with the wife. Oh yeah, he was the thing about doing something and then not doing it. So in the success program, okay, the narrator Michael Neal was saying he was thinking about why am I not doing this certain thing that he's been. He's supposed to do this particular action. It's been on his to-do list for ages. There doesn't seem to be any particular real obstacle to why he's not doing it. Like this, it can be done. It's easy to do it. You know, the phone's right there. I can call this person. I have no issue with the particular person. I've got the energy to do it. You know, I've got the time to do it. Yet there's no obstacle that I can observe, and yet I'm not doing it. And it doesn't seem to even be a feeling obstacle. Like it's not me feeling crappy about doing it. It's just, there doesn't seem to be an obstacle, yet I'm not doing it. So it's the sense of a hidden obstacle, or the way he interpreted it, which I quite like, which is that the obstacle is in the future, or that it's just a sense of timing, universal timing not being right. So I'll often have that. Like I tried to finish this book millions of times and the universal timing around it wasn't quite right. That something at the deepest level had not said, yes, this is done, yes, this is finished. There was more that could be done with the book, or more that wanted to come through. So I'm also hesitant now to say, yes, it is done, but it feels like it's more done than it's ever been. It does, actually. It does. And I've told it off as well. It's more like this is my decision for it to be done. Like I don't care if it feels slightly like it needs more. This is my decision. You've had enough. Book. Yeah. So that's just a little thing as well. A little sort of tip. If you think like, why am I not doing this? I should be doing this. I can't work out why I'm not doing this. Well, maybe it's because you're not meant to be doing it right now. And I have personally often found that what it is that needs to happen will happen naturally later, usually. For example, when you need to tell someone some important information or some important news, right? And you like, I just couldn't find the right time to tell them. Well, I believe that because often the emotional atmosphere is not actually right, and if you had told them sooner, it might have been worse than if you told them when you actually end up telling them. You know, it's just weird how things work in relationships, how you can know that it's necessary to tell someone something. You're not hiding it from them necessarily. You're not trying to not tell them. It's just it doesn't feel there's the space to say it. It doesn't feel like it's the right moment. It doesn't feel like there's the right connection. It just doesn't happen. Even if you try, you, for example, may even start a conversation to try and beat this point home to tell them, look, it's really such and such is really not working, or I've been doing this behind your back, or the money situation is really like this, and you try and tell them and you get so far and they just block it and you can't go any further. It may well be that it's just not the right time, and that if you relax and just allow that particular thing to happen when it is the right time for that, then you'll find it just it sort of happens randomly, or they come to you. So in the example of the success book, it's an audio program actually, the success audio program, in the example that the author Michael Neal gave in that audio program, Effortless Success, he said he was trying to call this person to arrange a particular event or project or whatever, and he just couldn't figure out, why am I not doing it? There's no reason not to do it. So his thing was that the obstacle exists in the future, or yeah, it's some kind of time delay thing that's not quite right. And I need to check this out again, listen to that program again. That's on my list of things to do. Yeah, and he said that when he did end up calling the person, or she called him, I think she called him, She said, "Oh yeah, the last 3 months have just been a nightmare and hectic, and I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway, even if you had called." Boom. Does that make sense? So there is that hidden knowing, that intuitive knowing as to if you're not doing something, there probably is a reason for it. You may not be able to see the reason right now, and that reason may release itself in the future, and that will be the right time to do it. So it's quite difficult. I went through an experience for quite a while where I wasn't saying anything to people, as in I just listened and listened and listened. I'm talking at a different time from when I was in America, like more recent than that, for about a year. A couple of years ago, I really spent a lot of time not speaking my mind, just listening most of the time, and it got really annoying because I was like, I could say stuff here. I've got input I can give, and I just wasn't doing it because I didn't feel the right feeling to, I suppose. And actually, earlier on, I noticed today that something had changed in that. That I suddenly realised earlier on. I was just saying, I was just talking to this person in the queue next to me in a way that I would never have spoken before. Like, it just felt really natural to just talk to the person next to me and to not feel like I was holding anything in. That it wasn't awkward. That I wasn't blurting stuff out, and I wasn't planning what I was going to say next either. It was like a combination of intentionally saying what I wanted to say when I wanted to say it immediately. Yeah. Whereas I went through this period in time where it felt like the universal timing was constantly off with every person. You know, like whatever it is I wanted to say to that person, I just couldn't mobilize that into speaking to them. So I might say like 10% out of all the things I could say. I might offer 10% of the wisdoms that I had inside me, or observations, or whatever. And then my whole approach was mainly a listening thing. That went on for ages and ages and ages. But it was like there was this deeper part inside me that was saying no to. Ugh. It was asking me to hold fast, to just be present, to stay in the place of this kind of gut level being here and listening, and just staying in the self, staying in the center, staying in the body. It's just being here, being here, being here. And in a silent way, in a more listening way, in a receptive way, just allowing people to talk to me instead. Yeah, and I've just realised today that I mix the both now. So I listen and observe and absorb and receive from people, and then naturally I also respond and give back and offer out in the same from the same place. I suppose it's from the same listening place. It's kind of intentionally speaking while still maintaining that sense of being, so that there's not the sense of a I'm talking and now I'm listening. It's more of a flow between the two. Yeah. So if you're having a trouble on telling someone something or doing something in particular that you feel you should do, and some part of you is just saying, no, it's not the right time, or I can't do it, it just doesn't feel right to do it, then trust that. Allow that to be the case. And that can be difficult because it can feel like there's this whole part. Like in my experience, I had this whole like voice in my head saying, come on man, what are you doing? Like, do the thing, just say the thing, or do the thing, why are you not, what is wrong with you? That kind of internal monologue that couldn't understand why the rest of my body and my being was not playing ball. Like, because I'd gone back to this deeper place and not fully, like my mind hadn't caught up, if that makes sense. So my mind was still operating in the old kind of jabber jabber jabber, just like, just continuing on, not aware of itself really, um, And then more recently, it's like the bigger being part has just encompassed the mind even more. So the beingness is more in control than the mind ever was in the first place. So if you're feeling a disconnect between what you think you should do and what you know is right, but you can't put a word to it, trust the deeper knowing. Because usually, actually in all cases from my experience, the deeper knowing tends to work it out. That's why it's there. It's telling you, stay with this, go with this, do this, don't do that one, even though you've said you're going to do it. Like, just don't do it. And if you find that you cannot do a certain action, there's probably a good reason why not to. That if given enough time, if you continue to just wait or observe and be attentive and responsive to yourself, that at some point the feeling about it changes, or the situation in the outside world changes. You know, I've achieved a lot by doing nothing and just listening to people. And what tends to happen is that life figures itself out, and I don't have to do it all. I don't have to make sure that things go as planned. I don't have to influence anything actively. That you just let people be who they are and how they are and do what they do, and you just take responsibility for this part of it. You know, your body and your mind and your actions and what you're going to do personally, and then allow the rest of life to fill in the details for itself. That, you know, things just go a lot easier, and there's less of a sense of stress and neediness, because you don't need anything to go a particular way, because you know that you're the only one who you can only control and motivate and act from within your own body. You can't actually reach into someone else's soul and literally move them unless you want to pin them down to a chair or put them in some kind of restraining thing and literally move them, which is obviously abusive. Well, it was supposed to be a Fieros story time, but it's more like Fieros lecture time. Come on, the egg of shame. Bring me love. Bring me your spiritual joys. Bring me Thanos. Not that Thanos and spiritual joys are the same. Come on, egg. Maybe I need to pray to the egg more. The egg of love. The egg of shame. But it's not. It looks more like the egg of joy. Maybe. Peace, joy, love. No, what is it? What emotion is that? It's not shame. Maybe that's shame. No. What emotion does it feel like? It doesn't feel like emotion. It feels like spiritual presence. Brightness, maybe. And then you've got this kind of dark thing coming in there as well, which is obviously the crack of the egg. But it's supposed to be kind of this emerging thing. Oh, I don't know. Pardon me. Whoa, that was lower than I thought. Hello. Alright, goodbye.